Hi guys, welcome back to episode 14 of Mom Can You Not? I've got my lovely co-host, Mama.
Mwakadi zvenyu, mwakadi, hello, salibonani, stonenjani, all the greetings in the world. How are you?
How are you doing today?
Oh, I'm fine. How are you?
I'm good. How's your week been?
Oh, my week has been fantastic. I went from, thinking, what are we going to do about this podcast, to having a solution to do it past Pemu Mango.
But they said it's nice past Pemu Mango.
I like, your feedback is very positive and it's very... It keeps us going, right? Because you just want the nyayas. It doesn't matter what it's pakona pema drain kana kuti pasi pemango. And how have you been? How has your week been? How has been life treating you?
Have we got any PSAs this week?
Or PSAs, just to we've been...
we hit 2,000, didn't we?
Yeah. That's the first thing. Thank you. We are now at 2K subscribers. Woo! And the engagement is fantastic on our little platform here, which we are growing. Just literally like just having, your friends you just chill with every week and have a chat. And it's really, really good. Everything has been going perfect. And thank you so much. That's the first thing. And we've also had Patreon.
Patreon. Is it Patreon or Patreon? Amen. That place.
That place. We've had people, you guys, some of you have already started subscribing. So we were trying to think, Coco and I, how we're going to use our Patreon. So we thought, you know what, there's some juicy stories
very juicy stories.
That we will just put behind a paywall.
These are the ones where the statute of limitation isn't quite up, but the tea is very hot.
Yeah, and you just have to close the eyes and you can guess who we are talking about. So those type of salacious juices, because there are some people who are very interested with how things have been with us. I think it's something that we need to also heal our own community, because the people who know us ask these questions every day, and I'm at that place where I think we should answer the questions, but not here over at Patreon.
So welcome to subscribe to our Patreon. All the details are in the description down below. Also the branches, events, everything will be in the description down below.
Yeah. So she did a fantastic thing where you just see where you want to support us, where you feel comfortable to support us. Because obviously this is going to be a movement. Hatis kumira. So, for a movement to be a movement, for a movement to move, it needs the oil, it needs the right vehicle and stuff like that. So those are the things we are trying to put in place. And, there's from just you liking our videos, that's also support. You subscribing to this channel is a fantastic support. You listening to our rantings until we go to the end, it means that the algorithm is going to be pushing this video to more people like you. So everything that you're doing, financially, spiritually, emotionally, watchically, everything we appreciate. And so thank you very much.
So what are we talking about today, babes?
So we were talking recently about finances, and I thought, this is a very good topic for our next YouTube. Our next YouTube,
podcast episode.
Because
don't run out of sugar yet. We've got an hour to go.
So and that's when you realize that sometimes English doesn't want to English. So anyway, in true me form, I will use myself as a very good guinea pig, because I think there are so many things, particularly for the diaspora community, where people have grown up in Zimbabwe and have just come to this place, to the land of plenty, where we think that everything here is free. Because when I came in my early 20s, guys. And when I came over to the UK, I'd never opened a bank account. I actually never had one. I didn't understand. I didn't have any financial literacy. I was literally like...
Is it common for people to have bank accounts in Zimbabwe?
Well, it's not. And the thing is, even if people have them, the way banks are run back in Zimbabwe, it's like chimpanzee, it's extortionate. So people would rather keep their money under the mattresses. There's actually no incentive for a person to bank back home. And, back home, there's also this element of elitism. We're a very conservative, elitist society. So some of these banking services are not for everyone. You literally find that, you know, in your whole family, maybe 2 or 3 people own bank accounts. Whereas it never was like that when I was growing up. In the 80s, 90s, it used to be called a POSB bank book. So it was a little book, like a little booklet. So you'd go to the post office. It was a post office savings account. So you'd go there with your $5. The teller would take it and write in your book and stamp it that you've put in your $5. It was, you know, I remember, you know, growing up, you'd hear mothers talking, POSB book rangu apa." Sorry, I'm hitting the mic. Sorry, this side. Meaning to POSB bank book rangu pazamu. Ndidaro apa. Mwana ndomukanchenda kuzaka ini ndikanoita zvino komari ndinosevazvo the PSB book rangu. So we grew up hearing these narratives growing up where, you know, people would do madoiri, get paid, go to the nearest post office and save the money. So there was a savings culture and there was a banking culture within from 80s to the 90s. When we got into the early 2000s, if there are any economists within our community, this is your time to shine. You know, you need to comment in the comment section if my timeline is wrong. That's when he started having things like hyperinflation and, you know, a lot of things started happening, you know, economically, and banks were shutting down. People were not, you know, a lot of things happened, you know, economically, and people just didn't have the saving culture they used to have. But when I was growing up, I knew that people saved money. We even had adverts on television on encouraging people to save. And there were banks that were...
Was there a credit system?
A very solid credit system, because there was KEBS Building Society. You could actually even get a mortgage from KEBS. Daddy Hope once mentioned that when he was 29, he bought his first house in Chisipiti using KEBS. And then there was Beverly Building Society. I remember it was this red bank. And my dad had a Beverly Building Society account, right? And I remember whenever he got paid at the end of the month, I would take $50 in his bank book and go and deposit it. And there was one particular bank I liked going in town, because I went to girls' high school. Some of you might know GHS then. So my dad knew that I would be in town anyway, so he'd give me his money and his little bank book. And then at the end of my lessons, I would go into the bank. And there was this particular bank I liked to go, because there was this boy who worked in that bank who had, like, I think I'm a falala in this tie. Malcolm X. It was, you know, every month end, that was the, you know, the height of my day, that I was going to go into Beverly and I was going to see this boy and these Malcolm X specs, and I would deposit money and you'd be like, have a lovely day, and I'd be like, you too. You know, yes, things that excite you when you're a teenager, yeah. And so we had a banking system. So I grew up in a time when actually people would go into a bank. And then...
But in your adult life, you never had a bank. It was like
then when
younger.
all these things happened,
yeah,
because I'm talking about when I was a teenager. So from the time I was, you know, like a toddler to when I was like 13, 14, there was banks. And they just disappeared. That Beverly I'm talking about is no longer there. In many other banks, they just disappeared. We had... I don't know what happened, because there was this guy called Chanakira who opened, I think it was Kingdoms, whatever. There were quite a few...
Our relatives.
No, you're not yours. Well, by twice removed cousins. They're relatives through your cousins. Yeah. So there was, you know, quite a few financial institutions, but they just disappeared, you know. And now people do bank, but I don't think the majority of Zimbabweans use banks, you know, because of the hyperinflation, waking up wishing the dollar loan and you no longer have money, things like that. So it's so uncertain, you know, that the economy is very uncertain in Zim, that, you know, you don't want to wake up with all your money gone when you put in $500 yesterday, and you wake up there saying, now we're using zigs, and your $500 is now worth 500 zigs, and you just, you know, it's too confusing. So people just stay away from it, and they keep their money where they feel safe, under their mattresses. So when I came here, bear in mind the last time I banked was in my teenage years. I'd never banked in my adult life. So I come here, where I used to live when I landed I lived next to a bank. Santander was across the road from my house.
Lloyd's.
There was Lloyd's, there was Santander, and there was Barclays.
Oh, is it? Oh, I don't remember Lloyd's TSB. Gosh, that's crazy.
There was Lloyd's across the road. There was Barclays Bank there, and there was Santander.
And that was round the corner.
Yeah. So we had so many banks around. And I remember the first time my husband said to me, "Let's go into a bank account. Let's go into a bank and open an account." The whole night, guys, and no word of a lie, I was so anxious. Because you know when you go, tell me how you feel not now. When I go back home, I've got an account with Nedbank. I've got an account in South Africa as well. But those accounts, because I've banked here, I've been here, it doesn't bother me. A banking hall is a banking hall, but banking halls in Zimbabwe are so unwelcoming. There'll be a bank teller, they're going, Masquera saying, muda kudhura mari maakaunti menyu muri kuti mune $80 mati muda kutora 85 asi hamugone metsi maakaunti menyu balance iri meri kureflecta 80 muda kutora 85 $5 achimunoiwana kupiko. So you hear somebody being questioned.
When we went to the bank in Zim, the lady was trying to get me to bribe her. Like,
why?
I don't know. Remember I told you I was so confused.
Oh, not to jump the queue.
I was already at the front. So she was asking me for money. Like, can you give me money? Then she was like, I like your foundation. Can you? I didn't understand I didn't understand what was going on there. I was very confused. Is that normal?
No, it's not normal.
At the time, it was really hard to get money, right? So it wasn't easy to get money. Like even
there wasn't any cash.
Yeah, so she was trying to get me to give her like a little something for something.
You see, the thing back home is people will use it. Kutonyora is when you have to bribe somebody. Yeah. So, if cash is difficult, if somebody knows that they've got cash, they want you now to tonyora them. It's such a weird system we have back home. And, for you have to oil somebody for things to move. It just doesn't work like that. Yeah. So they'll look at you very funny and they're not very welcoming. So my preconceived notion of a banking hall was the banking halls I'd grown up seeing, where you think, oh my goodness, why did I even come in here? This is too embarrassing. Oh, hey,
it's my 20.
And then they're doing that to you. And then the person behind you, because maybe they know them, that they are a CEO somewhere, it's like, good morning, sir. How are you, sir? And you're like, so, mrombo, that kind of thing. So coming here, I always had that preconceived, I was anti-banks. So we went shopping around because I wanted a bank that I knew from back home. But my ex-husband was like, nah, look for something new that you've never used before. So I went with NatWest. So I went into NatWest. I'll tell you about my relationship with NatWest as we move forward, right? But it was fantastic. We go in there. I opened my account. And they told me then that my card will be sent in the post. And the card comes with my name on it. And then because I was banking with them, and my money was going in regularly, I'm offered an overdraft. And I said, give it to me. And, because I was working and they were seeing, frequent flow of money, they said to me, we've upped your overdraft. I said, fantastic, free money in it. And so, you go onto the ATM, you've got an overdraft of over £3,000. So when you get paid, balance available is like 5,000, and you're like, hey, come hither. So now you've got a strong credit rating. What credit rating? What is that? Right? This is free money. Catalogues are saying to you, oh, please come and come and buy with us. You get
what catalogues were there? Because people might not even know what catalogues are. Catalogues, they're not a thing anymore.
Well, so catalogues before, there used to be this company where you'd go and buy, like furniture, clothes. They're still there. Very easy catalog.
But it's not called a catalog anymore because it was the thing. That book was the catalog.
So yeah, so I don't know what they're called now, but you'd open an account with. I had one with a company called Littlewoods. So it was sort of like where you bought all your electronics and
on credit. Yeah.
But they would send you a book through the post. It was this thick book. You'd flick through it, see what you like. There would be clothes there. I once bought my lilac moss crepe outfit from there. quite, because I like my things quality and they have quality clothes, and they would give you available credit as well. So it grew the more you paid. But the whole credit system, I didn't have an understanding of it. I wasn't educated enough to understand what credit meant, or what APR was. I didn't understand all this interest that you have to pay on top. I didn't know that there was catalogues were coming my way, and I was offered a credit card straight after by my bank, and I was like, give it to me. So I was just collecting all these things because they were being offered to me, but I didn't know the implications of that. Then how credit rating works, what adverse credit was, all these things I didn't know then. I knew that there was free money I was getting. I didn't know that I had to pay it back at some point anyway. So all these credit lines, I've taken every credit line that has been offered to me. And when it's happening when you initially get this shiny new credit card and you don't think you want to pay, you just are so excited about it. You're buying everything, even toffees on credit. You're buying nail polish, you're just taking your credit card out because you don't know. And then my account, the more I got paid, then I had a checkbook. I never written a check in my account in my life, guys, and this is the first time I'm writing a check. And I remember paying my hairdresser with a check.
Do they still do check books?
Well, I don't know.
No, is it?
No, because
I don't think I've ever been sent a checkbook in recent years.
No. The last time I was sent a checkbook was quite a few years back. Yeah. About 5-6 years back, before COVID, actually, that's when I last had a checkbook. So all these things are happening, and you're just thinking it's money, it's my money, I've been given it. But you don't know that the more you borrow, the more you get into debt, and this debt has to be paid. So it's cyclic. Then Zimbabwe, there's this saying that says, so you're not falling, but you're not going up. You're just hanging. Yeah. And before you know it, and there comes a point, because bear in mind, we are immigrants. When something happens back home, and you miss your one of your payments, you're falling behind with your missed payments. You're trying to catch up, and things are happening, and before you know it, you've missed 3 payments, and now all those people offering you money, they're hiding. Now they don't want to offer you money because now you're what they call a bad creditor. But you don't know all these things. You're just thinking, but why are they now behaving like this? I thought we were friends.
Yeah.
So no one actually tells you about that until you get into a spiral of debt. And when you're trying now to get out of it, and now you're not falling, all your money is going back. Excuse me, all your money is going to pay back, the overdrafts and the loan, the overdrafts and the interest on the overdrafts. So you're literally not recovering from it, and it becomes very difficult. So
what advice would you give to the COS girlies that have just come to?
So that's what I'm trying. This is specifically for you COS ladies and gentlemen. Banks are not your friends like that. So they're not giving you free money. So if it's being offered, look at the APR, the interest they're going to ask you to pay on it, right? Number 1. Number 2, do you actually need that money? Because sometimes it's quite interesting to just take money. And also, I'll come to another thing, why people got into all this debt as well. We've got families back home, and their expectations are, weird. I remember when I called my mom, I'd been here only for 3 months, right? And she was like, so we're talking, and she's like, hey, next door, I got magonyet for. I can't go into Nangue, Makaindemi. Patoni, Mamch, Varapak. Kwakuyarimwe mamch varapakarare chinganiro 2 tagaragarazve mamch rechi 3 magonyeti achimonyiwa chiuya chipakwapa ndopaunoona kuti vamwe zvavo vakazviberekera vana vavo vane urongwa. So you're here and you're thinking, how is this my neighbor doing it? So some people get under pressured so much, then they go and get these loans to get these gonyets that people are talking about. But one thing that I didn't know, and many people didn't know then, that people were getting into credit card scams, were doing all sorts of things. Because the finance situation when we got here, guys, people used to do all sorts. But because you are trying to live your honest life, now you're getting into debt, trying to, appease your parents because you're now fighting with a scammer who's getting free money, and your money is salary based.
Mr. Jones is the one paying for it.
There you go. So you don't know all these things because you are not in those circles. You are being compared with people who are in some shady circles, some shady deals. So you know what? Live within, and it's very difficult to say this because I think because you come from a place of lack. I came from a place of lack. I'd never banked in my adult years. I'd never understood what debt meant because I'd never been in debt in my life. So you don't know all these things, and you are being educated as you get into debt. So all these things I knew because I was the guinea pig. I had to go through it for me to now talk about it to Coco to say, keep your credit rating solid. You don't want to impact on, because when you now want to do things that are important, i.e. you want to get a mortgage, you want to get money for important things, you can't now because you spent your whole credit on a catalog, and you don't even have anything to show for it. Because I remember that time when my available credit went up to 700, I bought these Toshiba Zangane Goals. Those this massive back end. They were weird televisions. Now we are now in a flat screen. What do I have to show for that credit I took? Because now that she go see TV, you can't even. Everything is now. Yeah, everything is now flat. Yeah. So where even if you tried to sell it, who will buy Chegotsi in this particular?
And technology depreciates the minute it's in your house.
The minute it's in your house. So don't borrow to buy technology. And the thing is, because technology moves so quickly. I'm talking to the COS people. You'd better go on Facebook Marketplace, Gumtree, places like that, because people are forever renovating their houses. You do not need the brand newest technology. You don't need that. And I don't care what anybody says. You don't need the most brand new, because what was brand new yesterday, today is no longer brand new.
Yeah.
You get the most, because I remember there was these televisions that were like curved. After the Chegotsi, they came these televisions that were like AC. Right? So those ones, and I saw it in one of my friend's house. Now you can't even buy them anyway because they're out of. And then they came the plasmas, right? After that, and then people rushed for the plasmas. They left the C's alone, and then
the plasmas would go weird on the screen.
On the screen because they had this plasma in them. So those left now. We've got HD TVs, and then when I remember when the HD TVs came out, I just started training. They were costing like 4,000 for the biggest ones, right? And people, I would go into some of my fellow Zim friends' houses, and they would have those $4,000 televisions. Now, where are they?
But they'll be asking you if you can lend them money.
So where are they now? Because you just fall into this trap of trying to keep up with the Jones, right? And you are forever, trying to keep up with something that is elusive. Then we left that because, we had borrowed everywhere. Then we went on to buy cars on car finance. It was another thing. And because there were these companies like Welcome was a company that was run by the son of devil. He came here and just decided that he was going to target Zimbabweans. Yeah. The APR, the interest rates were ridiculous. But people really wanted to drive semi-new cars. And because we used to meet Kunjimbo, like the ones I was telling you when I told you the Peter Mapundu Cricket Club.
Yeah.
You want to borrow your car, so you'd go to Welcome Finance, get a car on Friday, on Saturday already flossing to your friends.
And now you're drink driving back.
You're drink driving back.
Within a week.
You don't even know how much insurance you're having to pay on this car, but as long as you've borrowed it and you can go and show your friends. And no word of a lie, one of my male friends bought a car, right, on finance. It was a Vauxhall Vectra, this car. It was the then model. I think it was like a year or 2 years old, right? And then he was like, "Oh, I want to come and show you my car, right? I've just bought a car." So I I had quite a few of my friends that were at my house. I don't know what was happening then. I think it was my birthday or something. So he comes and he says, oh, let's go to the club with the car. So we get in there. So my male friend comes. So there's now 5 of us with 4 of my friends. We drive. He says to me, oh, you can drive it. Bear in mind, I'm not insured on the car. Some of the things we used to do were so dangerous. I'm not insured on the car, but he's saying, because he wants to show me that he's generous with this guy. It's only a car. We drive to the venue where I think there was a Zimbabwean gathering somewhere in Highfields. So we drive there. So he says, oh, before you get there, put the volume as loud as you can, because I want them to see us that we've arrived. So we put the volume. I think we're playing Tuku tonight. So we're playing Tuku, right? And that's what they're, playing. And so you want everybody to see you in this car. Anyway, we get there. The car is loud. It's on loud, right? So everybody knows that you're in a. And regs were a big thing. So if you're driving that year's registration, it's a new car. So you want everybody to know that you're in a new car. Anyway, so we get there. We fraternize with all our friends. Now at the end of the day, then there were no Ubers. So what do we do? So my friends live in different places. So we thought, okay, we've got a car. So you drive yourself to the house where you're supposed to, to your house. Then somebody will take the car from there and drive themselves to their house. And until every one of us has been transported safely.
Yeah.
But no one thought of the driver, right? Because the driver at this point is as drunk as a skunk. So anyway, so my first friend, let's call them Linda drove themselves to their house. Bye, can I see you later? And then after that, Janet drove herself to her house. Bye, can I bye? See you later. And then let's say, I don't know, Farai drove herself to the car to her own house. So it was now me and the driver.
Yeah.
Right? So I drive myself to my own house. Then I leave him with the keys. Then I lock my door and go to sleep.
You know what's me, innit, Mom?
What did you want me to do? At least I knew that he was too drunk to drink drive. So he wakes up in the morning, right?
And there's somewhere to sleep.
I slept outside at the car park. It was all right. So he woke up in the morning and then he drove himself off, right? So that was the first week. So then the other times there was something happening again. I think it was a show, or I think my Cheso came, right? So my Cheso came again, my friend with their car. But this time, because I was going with some other friends who had come from out of town. He said, oh, shall we go to my Cheso? I said, no, I've already made plans with some people coming from out of town. So I won't be able to go with you. So I went with Ben and Essie. So we met at the Macheso show, which was such a blast. Everybody's having fun. So we are there. The event finishes, because he was a bit angry that I didn't want to come with him. So he left with some of these new friends he had made. And apparently they were doing the whole thing, the whole music thing. And then he drove into Barclays Bank.
You drove into Barclays Bank.
In the morning, I wake up.
How old is this car now? 2 weeks old?
This is like 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah.
It wasn't, he hadn't had this way a month.
Yeah.
So Welcome Finance still want their money.
Yeah.
But you don't have the car. So now he went and bought himself a little banger from the auction. We used to go to buy cars from the auction, and you'd buy as is. So he didn't realize that this car doesn't reverse. So after coming from this brand spanking new Vauxhall, he was now in this little banger, and obviously he couldn't keep up. The other thing is, if you don't have the car, you just don't feel the need to pay for it, isn't it? So it ruined his credit. He didn't even have the car. And now, because people are such gossips, people were talking about him, in the communities. Bank. So people used to do all sorts of weird and wonderful stuff. And I had he was like my senior at work, right? Zimbabwean as well. And he had bought his car on finance as well. So those are the stupid things people used to do. He was married, he had a wife at home, but decides that he had a side chick as well. So the side chick used to work with us. So he decided to teach the side chick how to drive.
With this car?
With this brand new car he bought on finance.
Why?
Well, it's your side chick and you want them to learn to drive. And So he took them to a car park, near where we used to live, and then they drove into Matalan, a new car. So every week there was a horrific story about somebody who's driven into something, or somebody who's driven, because there were either people driving without licenses, people driving drunk, and there was, but you'd have bought a car on finance. So you see, it's those reckless things which I don't want you guys to get into. These stories are funny now, but then they were horrific, because now you're thinking you're an immigrant. This country has got this racial profiling. I don't care what anyone says. If you're from a certain community and you are doing such reckless things, you end up in so much trouble, and there's no need for it. So know why you're taking this money, number one. If you're going to get a car on finance, and sometimes, having a good running car is a good thing, like especially if you're doing dom care, you don't want a car that doesn't reverse, or a car that you're not actually sure of what it has done before you bought it, because some cars have been in accidents. You don't want a car with a good history. So I'm not saying that please don't buy cars, buy them, but buy them on the lowest APR you can find them. Make sure that you afford them. Don't buy a Mercedes-Benz that you can't afford because your friend next door is driving a Mercedes-Benz. Because you in your Mercedes-Benz and the person who's bought a car that they can afford, you are still going to be doing the same job, being paid the same money. But this one has got more premiums going out because they are driving. And when cars depreciate, it doesn't matter what model they depreciate. The only place I know that cars will sell more than where you bought them is only in Zimbabwe.
And you need to tell the guy this, Mom, just because a guy is driving a nice car doesn't mean he's got money.
That's another thing.
You really need to know that.
Let me tell you something about these cars, right? I have a friend who's got 2 children by a scammer, because this guy used to rent cars, long leases from companies, because you can lease cars. The thing about this country, right? There's so many models of doing things, right? So whatever you want, there's something that that's tailor-made for you. Some people don't like owning cars because it's too expensive, so they lease miles on very beautiful cars. So when you see them driving those cars, it doesn't mean that they are rich guys.
Doesn't mean
that
got
car
money.
is
Doesn't mean anything. Exactly. It's just wealth signaling.
And we do a lot of. I was going to get into that. And the other thing that you don't judge people by what they wear or what they drive, because again, the amount of credit, the amount of scamming. I knew friends who would get would scam people's credit cards and go and buy designer goods from places like John Lewis. So if you know one of them scammers, you can just say, can you get me a Louis Vuitton bag? And I'll pay you £20 here, £20 there. It doesn't hurt them because it's not their credit. So you just need to be wary. Get to know. This is why when I got that flambe, I was trying to say, when I was saying date, I was trying to say, take time to know these people before you commit. Know people, know where they are from, know what they are about. Because my friend had 2 children by a scammer, because the scammer was driving very expensive cars, but they never had money on them. And you just can't make it make sense, because the two are not connecting. So money is a big thing in this country. It's a big thing amongst any immigrant community. Money is a huge thing, because not only do we need to survive for the families that we have here, we've got families back home, which also puts an added pressure on us. Because when I left back home, I was the only one here in the UK from my family. So they think that you are, because you are here, you're not their savior.
You're the generational breadwinner.
The generational breadwinner. So also say no if you cannot. Even if you're taking, because that's the thing that you hear people saying, when you go back home. Kind of Facebook, my man, the dresses that you'll be wearing, the cars you'll be posing on. Maybe you just like taking nice photos for the gram. Now people back home are seeing you with those photos from the like. Those are
the pictures that we're taking to the circle.
Those are the photos that you are yeah. Because people are now looking at you and thinking you're posing in front of a Porsche. They think it's yours. Maybe you've just seen it on the street, or you've seen the owner and said, "Oh, do you mind if I take a photo?" And because everyone has become a bit of a content creator, we all now are signaling madimoni nengozi to come and follow us here, because they've seen you in this holding this bag. I'm saying sometimes when you see people, what they are showing you on the gram is not exactly the life they live.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to leave it at, without sounding too controversial. But so your what do you call it? Your role model should be yourself, because your lane is your lane. It's you against you. Because if you try now to see these ones that have been here in this country for a very long time, some have built credit for we are all, because this country, the majority of people are in debt, but it's a service debt because they can pay for the debt. They're just floating on top of it without any savings. And sometimes we used to, thank God it's not so much now, but in earlier years you'd find somebody was moving around Mercedes Benz. When you get to these parties, they're wearing the latest Louis, they're wearing the latest Gucci. Then they die and people are saying Angas police. You're like, how?
Yo, that's such a good point,
Yeah.
Like whenever somebody dies in the community, and now we're all having to like put our little pennies together to bury that person. When we really should be getting life insurances.
Yeah. Funeral policies. Yeah. And so I think these days people have wisened up a bit. I'm not seeing too many GoFundMes, but there was a time when we had like a donor fatigue, because people just were not thinking of those things. They were thinking of buying these flashy cars. So you need to settle down, calm down a little bit. Because I know when
we don't want these lot to make the mistakes of the previous generation.
Because when you come, these lights are so bright and sometimes they can be very blinding. You want the latest phone, they'll give it to you. You want the latest car, they'll give it to you. But then you are now in misery. And it also is about who are you doing it for. If you want an iPhone 20 because that's what you've always wanted, good on you. Don't get it so that you can, floss to Janet.
Yeah.
Because when now all to Voda channel 3 are now wanting their
on
money,
your ass.
they're coming to you. They're not coming to the person you're trying to floss on. So be very mindful about how you use credit. Be very mindful about having savings. Be very mindful about having a funeral policy. The last thing that Zimbabweans will come and they'll sing for you as soon as we leave and we are now by the gate. Asina kambozvitaura kuti zvinhu izvi kaizvi muchazviona zvenyu komba macho mambona panga achigara. People do that. It's not nice, but we do it. And some of it is because we know, fear for our own mortality. We don't want to do the same thing. But,
it feels a bit morbid.
Morbid, exactly.
Policy.
Yeah, but it is very important, guys, because when it then happens, you just want people to come and then just know that your affairs are in order. If you want to go to Zim, you're going to Zim. And also when we came over, bear in mind, we never came thinking we're going to stay. So for some people, this was we're sort of like in transition. So people never settled that this is our new life. Because I know friends who were offered, loans, big loans, and they just took the money and went back home because they never intended to live here. But if you've got, sights of living here for a long time, service your credit, pay your credit on time, don't take unnecessary credit because there is a summer festival and you want to buy tickets from ClearPay. That is credit. Don't do that.
Don't do that.
If you can't afford it, if you are pay, my dad used to say, if you cannot pay for it in cash, you cannot afford it. Simple as. If you cannot, especially small purchases, we're not talking of big purchases like houses.
Like buying clothes on Klarna from Pretty Little Thing.
There you go.
That's
if
crazy.
You cannot go into Pretty Little Thing and buy your £25 dress, you can't afford it. You leave it. And that's where we need to be more sustainable with what we wear, how we wear it, and also how we, because cost of living in this country, you guys came at a very difficult time. When we were here, things were not as difficult as they are. So it's very important to be mindful. It's very important to, to budget even, to say, okay, as this is my job and this is how much I earn. See what your incomings and your outgoings are. Don't get very excited by the people you follow and the kind of lives that they're living.
Trying to keep up with the influencers.
Because most of it is smoking mirrors.
Yeah.
It's not necessary. And you know...
And you don't even know the extent that people are going to get those things.
You know, yeah. There was a girl who said, it was so weird. I saw them on TikTok. This is many, many moons ago. They're saying that some of you might remember this because it went to the wrong side of TikTok and she was being dragged. She had said that she carried like 2 suitcases of clothes and when they got all dirty, she threw them away.
Where did she carry the clothes to?
To Zim.
Oh, okay.
Here. So she went to Zim on holiday.
Okay.
So she said that she had an outfit for every day. So she was there for 14 days.
Okay.
And when the holiday was finished, she had 14 dirty outfits, so she threw them away. You know, things like that.
Why was she saying that?
Because she thought that, you know, so people now were like,
why would you throw away? Throw away clothes, especially when there's a climate crisis.
There you go. So it's things like that. So, and you want to keep up with those type of people who do not know what it is and
don't know how to read the room.
Don't know how to read the room. So we need to be very careful in the communities that we dwell in, the people that we spend time with. If you feel that this friendship is now putting pressure on me that I cannot keep up with, walk away from it.
And don't be friends with scammers, guys. Do you remember that babe who was like taking her friends' details to then take things out on credit in their names?
Yes. Yeah. So the other thing is also, you know when there used to be 50% Sainsbury's, 50% what else? You know, celebrity. 50%
every little thing.
All these things, you know, there are all sorts of scammers when we were here, you know. And the other thing is this keeping up with the job, because you want to go to a party which is an all-white party and you want to be you want to look snatched. So you're now going on Snapchat looking for 50% celebrity.
Oh my gosh. You know, your generation didn't do this yet, but my generation, we had the boys who'd be like, oh, I'll put like £10,000 in your bank account. Just give me if you're on Monzo, on Lloyds, whatever. And then you'd go, they'd put the 10K in your bank account. Yeah, instant blocker. Your account gets taken down, you're blacklisted. You can't even open a high street bank anymore.
There you go.
That was a very common thing. So many people's credits have gone down the bin that way. This is a millennial Gen Z issue.
I worked with a girl your age. You know her, the one I'm talking about. She did that, right? She was in a relationship with a scammer. She actually knew that this guy was a scammer. It wasn't like, you know, she fell into this relationship. She knew. So this guy put like 40,000 into her account, right? And then the account gets blocked. Then she decides, what did she decide to do? To go to the bank. To find out why.
Did they call the feds?
They did. They called the police, but she explained the situation. She explained the situation to them and how this had transpired. But they knew because they'd been tracking this particular person who had done that. So and because she came into the bank, she managed to sort of like lead them to him. So anyway, he was arrested.
Sometimes it would be successful, but you'd end up only with like pennies, or they'll take everything.
And not just that, because sometimes, you know, because that, you know, if say you manage to get the 40,000 and they manage to get it out, and somebody makes a chargeback, and the bank has to honor that chargeback, you are now the person with the bank account now owe your bank 40,000
pounds. There's no such thing as free money.
There's no such thing as free money, and you know, you just live a very miserable life and you don't want to get into trouble because of financial scams. So that's why I'm saying that living within your means, even if your car is serviced, has got the right MOT and is insured and it gets you from point A to point B, keep it that way. Because this business of trying to keep up with people, drive these flashy cars, which you can't afford, that's why you now want to do these extra things, like somebody says, I just need to use your account. Why can't they use their own account?
They use their own account. You
know, those are the questions that people do not ask before they get into trouble. So yeah, so that's the thing about that. And also, you know, sending money back home, guys, there's nothing wrong with that. But send what you can afford. Because Zimbabwean families will forever ask for money. Even if you send money today, if you ask them, do they want money tomorrow? Like, I
think they don't realize how hard this country is.
And also, we don't have these candid conversations with our relatives, you know, because, you know, when you're talking to them, you just act as if everything is okay. And so they think, you know what, things are harder for them back home. So surely you are there, you are better off than them. So you should give them money. So you have to have candid conversations with them. Have a budget for Zimbabwean people. Sekuru vachangomedza demo, whether you like it or not. Ambuya vachangomedza bara, whether you like it or not. You know, there's the things that Zimbabwean families back home always want are always going to be above and beyond. So you just need to have a budget for what you can afford. You know, I know the Gen Xs. I spoke to quite a few Gen X, Gen Zs.
Gen Z.
Gen Zs. I spoke to some of the Gen Zs. They
Are
were
you
saying,
Gen X?
I don't know which Gen I am. The Gen Zs I've been talking about, they said they don't do that. They don't send money back home, and it's something they don't have an intention to do. And I can understand why. Because sometimes you also have to, you know, like how, you know, when you're in a plane, when they say you have to put a mask on yourself before you then go and try to save other people, you have to also invest in yourself so that you can help other people. I know, you know, it is hard to say that, and there is always this thing where culture and religion expects us to do more, go above and beyond, especially if you've got a living mom back home, a living dad back home. You just have to give the money even if you don't have it. And it becomes, that's where all the other issues come with finances. So you have a budget for back home if you have to, and keep it very simple. If you're not seeing yourself going back home in the next 5 years, don't now start fighting with those people who are building 10-story houses. Because the other thing is, that's what I see there's always a trend of things that we do in this country. You know, there was once upon a time, there were the destination weddings where everybody was going to get married in Zimbabwe. So everybody was saving for a Zimbabwean wedding. Then we stopped that. We started doing this thing of sending cars back home to Zimbabwe. And everybody was sending cars back home to Zimbabwe. And then we left that trend. Then we started this thing of building houses in Zimbabwe. This was like in the mid-2000s, getting into the 2015, 16. Everyone was building a house in Zimbabwe. But they had no intention.
Opening care.
Then we stopped that. Now we're doing the dome care one. And everybody I know has got a dome care. So it's very cyclic. And if you keep up with this, you know, it's the same people. The person I saw last time sending cars, I saw them now buying a house back home. Now they've got a care home. So it's the same people who keep on doing the same things. So you have to sort of have an independent thought process of, you know, it's a marathon, it's not a race. Don't do things because the next person is doing them, because now when CQC come and they shut you down and now you are blacklisted, it even impacts on your actual, you know, some of these people I'm talking about are nurses. Now if they hit you with the modern day you now can't even be a nurse, because now your PIN is jeopardized because of some of these business dealings that we do. And sometimes there's no actual planning. It's just because my friend did it, I'm going to do it as well. And people are now getting COSs, you know, the licenses, and selling them to people. Just getting into this weird, getting into this weird and wonderful things that we rush into. Take time to dip your toes, and you know, it saves you a lot of grief. I remember when we were here, and you know, people's papers were taking long to come, and there was a batch of people who decided to, you know, tell each other that there was a person who could make you a visa that looked very similar to the one that was being given. So a lot of people took them, and they were quite authentic. If you looked at it without thinking anything, you just think it's the right thing. And people managed to go to school, get bursaries with them, practice with even. Now it's catching up. You know, this happened 15 years ago. We've forgotten.
Now,
it's now catching up. Actually, we don't have you in the system. Now they are questioning your whole credentials, your whole PIN, your whole everything. But this is something you did 15 years ago. And things here do not go to sleep and lie to bed and forever. I knew people who were, you know, taking passports to try and go back home. Now when it came to naturalizing, they're saying, oh, you're going to Zim like 3-4 times a year, but you were saying you're a refugee, so you're lying. You know, things like that. But this is now, years later, you want to now live your life. So whatever you do right now, even if you take credit that you can't afford, 7 years down the line, you're now married, you're in a good job, you can't get a mortgage because of all these financial sins you were committing. So whatever you do right now, especially you guys, you've got a nice clean slate. Don't follow the Jones. our problem was when we went to parties, we're looking at the next person and the person to your right, the person to your left, right? Pursue the goals that you came here for. If you came here because you want to eventually settle and study or whatever it is that you came, don't be dissuaded from that by trying to now associate yourself with the scammers. If you came to work because you want to build your 5-story mansion back home, do that as well.
Do that. Keep your head down.
Keep your head down, because
stay away from the get rich quick schemes. We've had a few, like Amways and all of that, but the worst one has to be selling COSs to people. Exploiting your own people is another next level.
Yeah, but like I've told you, remember I was telling you about these people who were getting, went to school on dodgy papers. Now it's 15, 16 years down the line. You're maybe a service manager. You're now a ward sister. And now people are questioning your credentials because of something you did because things were taking too long. Stay in your lane and things will happen. Because I remember, when in my cohort of friends, every day it was, oh, good news, Askana, my papers have come. And I knew scammers who could have done it for me straight away. On the day I would be saying, good news, Askana, mine came too. But I just said to myself, no, this is not for me, right? This is not for me. Because you just then, slow and steady wins the race. When the papers came, they were genuine. They'd come from where they were supposed to come from. And I held them and I could do whatever I wanted to do, go on to the next stage in my life. Destiny delayed is not destiny denied. Financially, politically, anything that you do. Take time. Slow wine. Don't, try to rush and think you came yesterday and the day after. And stay away from these forums, guys. Those forums, that's where it all starts. Oh, I came yesterday, then I put my child in private school yet the day after. You're thinking,
is it Facebook groups? Yeah.
Facebook groups, Facebook lives, all these places where we congregate and because we used to congregate in real life. We used to go to, these open spaces with our cars, start playing loud music. Now people don't do that. They congregate on Facebook lives, and that's where all this nonsense, some of it starts. People are now saying, oh, data say, and people crying over, a COS that they bought because somebody was selling it and they never got it. All these things.
That is crazy.
Just
people are paying £15,000, £20,000 to come here and not be able to even work.
And again,
or even come here at all.
There you go. And sometimes, it's because of the pressure. Because that the next person has gone there. But no one ever gets here and gives people honest feedback that yes, it's slightly different from Zimbabwe, because in Zimbabwe you're not earning anything, right? You didn't even have any job prospects. But it's not all rosy either, because you are swapping the free time you had in Zimbabwe for money. So you are coming here to work, and it's constant and persistent.
And the cost of living is
and
really
the cost
high.
of living, sometimes doesn't match. If you now go and find your job in an area where it's very expensive, you are now living sometimes under squalor so that you can afford that. So those are some of the honest conversations we don't tend to have. Those are the conversations we should be having. And all you see out these rosy TikToks, oh God, I was praying for this and God gave it to me, and whatever. But what happened after?
Thinking, God when?
But it's like the same thing I'm always saying about marriages as well. No, people show you the rosy, the day I said I do, their foreheads are joined together and the noses, and they're cutting cakes together, and they show you the honeymoon, but they don't show you all the other dirty, horrible stuff, the infidelity, the poor communication, the financial struggles.
Or the niece being the daughter.
The niece being the daughter, all those things, nobody talks about it. We just like the highlights of the reels, but we don't like that's the same with the COS business and the financial situations here. You're not coming here to become a millionaire, guys. That I can bet on. You're coming, I can bet you're coming here to work, and to work for maybe after you've paid all your bills and everything else. You are left with, if you are lucky, you're left with 150, which is going to be, asked for by our relatives back home. So it's literally working to live.
Yeah.
Right, which is not a bad thing, because what we're saying is you need a chance to be able to work. You need a chance to be able to pay your way. That's it. So if you take anything from this, if everything else is rubbish and you don't agree with it, all I'm just going to say to you is, take time to be financially literate. It's very important, because you can make wise decisions around your money. You can make wise decisions around, you know, how you spend it, how you borrow it, how you live even. Yeah. So that's all I'm saying, especially to the COS. This is a message from me. Please don't make the mistakes that some of us did. Some landed in prison. Some landed with very bad credit that they can't even borrow a toffee. You know, and some got into accidents with cars that they were not insured on, and then now the insurance premiums are so high that even if they can afford a car, they can't afford the insurance because of some nasty accidents that they've been involved in. So stay in your lane.
Stay in your lane.
Learn about the country, not from me, but from the laws that be. You know, Citizens Advice Bureau is a very good place to start. They're funded to help you know as a citizen what are your rights and what are not your rights. If money is being offered, it's not your money. They're offering it because that's what they are selling. They are selling credit to you. So ask yourself if you can afford it and if you really need it. You know, because money, whether yako is marine gonak.
Stay away from the scammers.
Stay away from the scammers. So that's me.
Thank you very much, babes. And thank you for joining us on episode 14 of Can You Not. Please don't forget to comment, like, subscribe, share with your cousins, share with your friends.
Share with your mamas even.
Share with your mama.
Because apparently there's a mothers movement here. The children, send their episodes to their moms and they watch it whilst they're ironing.
Yeah.
So thank you so much. You know, I didn't realize that this was going to be such a movement, that we're going to have people who are tuned in to hear me chatting, but you are here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and see you on episode 15.